why should the voters of Stonington fire the incumbent and hire you as their first selectman?
Well, thank you, Paul, for hosting this evening, and thanks to the Day and the League of Women Voters, and thanks to all of you, since we work for you. And as he said, we'll be done in an hour, right? So Red Sox should be okay. So why should you vote for me? I've been on the Board of Selectmen for 4 years. I've done my homework, gone to lots of boards and commissions. During those 4 years, have learned how many great people we have that serve in this town on various boards, 180 people when fully staffed, believe it or not. And my background is business. I have run a rather large business for 16 years, and for 23 years we have owned our own business. And I think that as much as the things that we work on, what we do is just as important as how we do it. And I bring a different approach to things and how I would do things. Taxes, safety, economic development, budgets, all those are things that everyone needs to work on in their communities. And that was my stop.
Mr. Brown, if you want to continue with that, thoughts on why there should be a change?
I have had 20 years experience in the Board of Selectmen as your selectman and also 3 years as your first selectman. I believe I had many accomplishments during those 20 years, and I anxiously and enthusiastically looking forward to serving you again. Thank you.
And Mr. Habrick, obviously flipping that a little, why do you think the voters should rehire you?
First, I also want to, as Glee said, I also want to thank the Day, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters. This is a great turnout tonight. I appreciate it. I just think that basically a lot of the determination goes by results and how it affects you day to day. I'm very proud of the accomplishments that the staff and the boards and commissions over the past 6 years as I've been in office have accomplished. Everything from putting together streetscapes to unprecedented infrastructure with new fields, new roads now. Also, we've done a number of internal renovations in the town hall and the policies and processes that go on, reorganizing two departments, a number of different accomplishments internally and externally, and all doing that with a 0.0% town government budget for the past 6 years. So I'm very proud.
Thank you. And our other incumbent selectman.
George Krause. I've been in the towns all my life, basically, except when I went to college. I've taught at Pawcatuck Junior High and Stonington High School. And most of you know me as the high school tennis coach. I've been there since 1973. But my view for the town is a progressive one where we're going to make the town better and do things with our shoestring budgets, but basically we've done so, and I think if you look at our roads, our fields, our infrastructure, everything is getting better. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And under the format, which both town committees worked out the rules, so that's the rules we're operating under. The side that got the question originally gets 30 seconds to sum up.
So here's one of the reasons how we're different. Ed refers to a virtually 0.0% increase on the town side. I look at it and say we're one budget, we're one town. We've got to look at the town and the school as one. And in our town charter, it even says that the Board of First Selectmen should be involved in presenting the school budget. And it needs to be done that way. I also would say the budget that Ed put forward is not the one that was passed by the Board of Finance. And so you've got to look at what the Board of Finance's involvement is with the budget process and what they accept and how they move forward with the actual numbers. So I think that those numbers are a little disingenuous when we look at it. You've got to look at what someone put forward as well as what was passed and look at the involvement and the checks and balances and how that's done. So that's one way that I would differ on how we do things.
All right, thank you. And the next question now begins with the incumbent first selectman, Ed Habrick. Got several note cards questions on this, Mr. Habrick, and that's this lawsuit by Tracy Swain, who amazingly for a second straight election is still out there. I think it's sort of a commentary on how slow our court system moved. And recently we had a letter to the editor in the day from Mrs. Swain's attorney saying that during the deposition, you admitted to sending Mrs. Swain a sexually graphic photo, but denied it was a picture of you, and that you deny that you used town equipment to send it. So, I mean, is that ultimately what happened here? And if it did, does that reflect badly on your decision-making in that it exposed the town to this litigation? Mr. Habrick.
Well, first off, I mean, I would be totally disingenuous to speak about an ongoing court system because an ongoing litigation, because I want to protect my rights for countersuit, and I don't want to jeopardize, especially a countersuit against the attorney and also against the litigant. Secondly, it's as I've always said, I vehemently denied the allegations that this individual has done. I don't know why the town is involved in it or why it was involved in it, but as a town, we've successfully defended ourselves against this particular lawyer before when he's brought up such allegations. And then secondly, I think that, you know, I mean, it's interesting because one of the first people that this particular litigant discussed this action about was the former Stonington Republican Town Committee chairman. And then all of a sudden, my opponent comes up with a quote-unquote letter that the town didn't even receive yet. So there's a lot of questions around this, but unfortunately, there's ongoing litigation, so I'm not going to comment on that as per my attorney.
Mr. Kraus.
We operate under a rule of law at this moment. Nothing has been proven. It's he said, she said, but basically, David Collins' Day article brought out a fact that a certain party wanted to get out of an estate roughly $10,000. The thing I'm thinking about, and Mr. Haber could probably have shoveled and mowed the lawn for that 94-year-old lady for nothing.
And rebuttal, Glee McAnally.
Well, the letter that you referenced, actually, I wish Tom Londrigan were here, our town attorney, because the day that happened, I made a phone call to Tom Londrigan, who was with his family in Orlando, to make sure that Mr. Habrick was indeed aware of the letter. Mr. Londrigan said that he was. We did bring it up at a Board of Selectmen meeting. I asked to go into executive session because the only reason that the town is involved in this lawsuit, Mr. Habrick, I believe you do know, is because our labor attorney, Mike Sadai, was involved and brought to the table. And because that happened, I'm taking his 30 seconds.
Okay, 30 more seconds.
And because that happened, that is the reason that the town is in the lawsuit. And I understand First Selectmen get sued all the time, but in this particular situation, it's directly related to actions of the First Selectmen, so that's how it makes a difference a little bit. And if that attorney had not been brought in, the suit would not be it wouldn't be with the town, it would just be a civil suit with Mr. Habrick.
All right, time is up. Mr. Habrick, you get last word.
Well, unfortunately, my opponent is incorrect. I mean, it's not related to the Mike Sadai being involved in that, because the actual case that he still has against Selco is still going on and he hasn't dropped it. So the reason is because of, I mean, if you saw the demand letter that this person extorted to try to get out, it's something that's completely irrelevant with the town, and I've continued to produce results in my job all through this for the past 6 years.
All right, I think we have to call it that course. Moving on to the next question, and it goes to the First Selectman candidate, Glee McAnally. And you said you promised you want to run a positive campaign, but I was looking at the comments from Mr. Brown on our voter guide that you find on theday.com, and said, you know, what are your priorities? And he said he wants to return respect to the First Selectman's office when currently there is very little respect from townspeople of the entire region. To kind of summarize Mr. Brown's comments, pretty strong comments. Do you agree with him, and why or why not?
I don't speak for Mr. Brown. I did not help him put together his answers to the day. I have said that, yes, I personally will respect the office of First Selectman. I can only speak for myself. And I've treated this entire process as though it's a job interview, because you, the voters, are the ones that are going to hire the next first selectman. And I do hope that you pick me, but I hope that I give you reasons why you should do that. And I will respect the office of first selectman. And I will also bring to town hall management experience. I will make sure that we have regular meetings, that we bring that back to you. I will institute the Ethics Commission that has not been put in place since 1999, and there was a letter from Nick Keppel saying in 2009 that it needs to be put in place, and that's with our town charter in chapter 7, verse 16. 7:16 that says there shall be an ethics commission.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Brown, it was your comments, and
I've been going door to door now for over a month, and the many, many people that I've been in contact with, so many have said, when are we going to get some respect back to the first selectman seat? That's why I put that in my answer. It's the movie that came out about the rescue of the bars and the picture of Mr. Habrick sitting at the bar. So many people have responded to that and said, is that where our first selectman should be? Let's get some respect back to the first selectman's office,
All right.
and that is why
Thank you.
I'm supporting Lee.
Mr. Habrick, in your response to this contention that there's a lack of respect, what do you see?
Well, first, it's appalling that Mr. Brown is one to say that. I mean, for somebody who took $1,000 from Wilbur Breslin, a developer, when it was in planning and zoning, is appalling. Also, in Town Hall in 2006 said the town officials should decide how the town hall looks, not the public. So for someone who really cuts out the public. Secondly, I don't judge people. I go to, if there's an event at the yacht club or if there's an event at the local establishment, I will go, because they're all part of our community here. I don't judge people by certain class or anything like that. We're all a community here. You may judge them, but I certainly won't.
The question here is the Stonington actions by two selectmen. Habrick and Kraus are out there every storm. What do you see? Habrick and Kraus. Every time there's a problem in town, who's there? Habrick and Kraus. There's no other two people that basically dedicate their lives to Stonington other than Habrick and Kraus. The other thing is, I'm also out there as a cheerleader for the town. I'm there at the football games, the field hockey games, the soccer games, every game you can think of, and brown and white is very important to me.
Thank you. And last word from the Republican challengers, 30 seconds.
And here's another way that there's a how that we're different. And see, sometimes you just draw blanks. Have you ever done that? You know, I'm like 49, and so sometimes you just kind of draw a blank. Can you go over that question one more time?
I think the governor of Texas did, too.
Time-wise, let's say 15 seconds to just from there, okay. I think we're going back and forth on this contention that there's a lack of respect among the townspeople in the region for the current first selectman, and the first selectman's response and that of he's out there with the people and stuff, he doesn't see it. So that was the topic, and
all right.
you got 15 to
Okay, there we go.
finalize.
George Kraus just said we're in the town because of the storms. We are supposed to be involved in the emergency management collectively. This is a how that I would be different. I would let both other selectmen know when it's a storm and when their services are needed. And I have never been called by the first selectman during any storm to participate.
Thank you. Mr. Habrick, your turn. The question is, an overwhelming majority of the respondents to both the 2004 and 2014 Plan of Conservation Development Survey updates favor permanently protecting more open space. Yet this questioner contends that they feel the town has done very little when compared to neighboring towns to acquire open space. So, if you could respond about, your efforts to acquire or not acquire open space.
First, I just want to say I hope I don't have to call you when there's an emergency, because I think these past 4 emergencies have been well worth known for the townspeople. But let me just talk about open space. I'm very proud of the work that we've done with the Stonington Land Trust, the Conservation Commission, collaboratively together. We've done a number of open space projects where you have over on North Anguilla Road, the first large parcel that was ever donated to the Stonington Land Trust. We've done, that's a beautiful recreation area there. Also on Bluff Point, the Crowley property is one of the huge pieces that we were able to restore together collaboratively, the town, the state. Gina McCarthy, the former commissioner, came down and applauded the work that she said that Stonington has done in conserving open space in many areas. So I'm very proud of it. There's 2 other parcels left that we're looking to do that I'm really excited about coming up within this next year, and it's been a pleasure to work with both of those organizations, and also Avalonia too. Also, lastly, the Rutan Dam, that's also another great project that's been done.
All right.
Another project that's been done.
Mr. Cross, you're on?
Mr. Cross,
Okay, you've got 30 more seconds.
the Rutan Dam, which was one of the dams that was putting pressure on the storm of the flood of 2010, working together with the National Conservancy, the town of Stonington, the Avalonia group, we were able to remove that dam and be able to save all the area of birdland from any type of potential storm going on in the future. And I want to thank the Rutan family for helping out in doing that. That was a mink farm many years ago, some of you know, and it's a beautiful parcel of property now that, again, the fish are starting to come back and habitat there. So, again, very proud of the open space work that's been done.
Thank you, Mr. Havrick. And Glia McAnanley. I always have a little trouble with that name. It's a little too many syllables.
That's okay.
McAnanley, right?
That's why I say go with Glee, because sometimes
Okay, I might do that.
lots of people have trouble with McAnanley, so.
Glee.
Yes.
So the question is open space.
Yes, open space. Moss Park is an open space that's already on the records, 14 acres over behind Lathrop. And most recently, you were in conversation with developers about changing that to elderly/affordable housing. Now, although those needs are very important in the community, I don't think that we can take away the intentions of what was given in the early 60s that was to be open space and say that we're still for open space when we're willing to take those acreages off from the records and try and do something else with it. I think it's very important that we understand intent and where people want their land to be donated, because if we don't do that, then in the future, other people may not donate. I look at a strategic plan 10 years out, and I think it needs to be in concert with the plan of conservation and development. And we need to really be looking and build the vision for folks and say, you know what, if elderly housing is important to us, let's figure out what we look like in open space, how much land we need, and then let's seek out some folks that may have land and say, let's work together to get that done.
1 minute and 30 seconds, Mr. Brown, unless gives you the chance to continue.
Yeah, I'll do that. Jim Spellman and Vinnie Felice, many of you know, who are no longer with us, but when West Vine School was put in, there are 44 acres over there. And I'm always confused and wondering why we're not looking more towards that area for elderly housing, because that was the intent of what Jim Spellman and Vinnie Felice thought could happen over there. And so I think we need to go back, find out what people's intentions were when they gave land, build the whole plan so people know where open space is, and maybe even there's some access for the public.
Thank you. And Ed, you get the last word on our open
Yeah.
space discussion.
Two corrections that my opponent has wrong. One is a developer came to me. I never requested Morse Park. Secondly, it's deeded as recreation. So actually, the athletic fields that were built could actually be built there. So as I said, we've met with the residents who are very well. This is a normal democratic process. The developer is looking onto another area now. Morse Park is going to be working with Stanton Sim. I'm going to be going to the meeting Monday night to look to preserve that as open space so that it doesn't get recreated.
Okay, we have to stop it there. Glee, next question to you. And a couple of our questioners, sort of a very practical question, they expressed concern about the growing number of vacancies in the Pawcatuck Commercial District, and wonder what your ideas might be to try to renovate and get more of them opened up.
And here's a difference also with Mr. Habrick and myself, another how where we difference. Mr. Habrick goes outside of the community trying to bring things in, and I would work strongly within our community And with the chambers, I would work with private businesses as well as public and make sure that we have ideas that we're working with successful business owners that are in place. Mr. Habrick did a meeting in April and then one shortly before the election cycle at Mel's Creamery, kind of talking about different options for downtown Pawcatuck, but there was no measurement between those two times as far as what's going on. I think we need to be out there. We need to be talking with all of the business owners. We need to talk to people that live within our community that own businesses and really work on retention and really work on a vision that we can share.
And Mr. Brown?
I would support Glee when she becomes first selectman with the policies and the concerns that she has for the downtown area. And there's a lot that I know that in her mind that she can do down there, and I fully support it. She just needs, and the first selectman does need to go out there and try and retain these businesses that are already here.
Okay, Ed?
I have to say that economic development has been one of the top priorities of mine. Actually, the day I think in the last their last endorsement said that I was a bulldog in trying to be able to get economic development. I'm proud of the businesses we brought in. Zachary Corporation, which is growing now, going to be adding 80 more jobs. We have L&M Diagnostics. We have the Wesley Sun competitor. Apologize, but they're over with us now. Also, Tractor Supply. It's been a combination work that we've done in the aspect of trying to economically garden the ones that are here, working with Zachary now, looking at their vendors, and then also looking outward to try to attract people here.
That's 1 minute.
Oh, can I have the 30 seconds?
If your fellow candidate so sees fit, yes.
So along with visiting 2 businesses a month as my priority, I go and I speak with them and we talk about different areas. I visited pretty much all the major businesses and all small businesses too to talk about it. We actually are out in the community. I'm very proud of it. Working with Sector, working with COG, working with a number of areas, we're able to now have put Stonington on the map. And I'm very, very proud of the work that's been done there, not only nationally, but internationally.
And last word, Glee and Mr. Brown on Pawcatuck and trying to get some of those businesses filled up.
Well, since we're kind of talking about now, we've kind of made it more economic development in general. 3 of the businesses that he referenced, Zachary, L&M, and Tractor Supply, were all done in his last term. And so I think we need to look in this term and see what's going on. Westerly Sun, those of you that know, they had their building kind of went away, and so they needed to look for a place. And fortunately, there was a building that they were able to occupy over in Pawcatuck, which is a great thing. In reference to you visiting businesses, I had the opportunity early in September to visit number 7 on our grand list, which is the Mystic Village. And Joyce Resnikoff and I had a nice conversation for over an hour and talked about economic development, where we're going in the future, because I wanted to do my homework in the process of applying for the job. And she said that Mr. Habrick had not been in her office, had not spoken with her about economic development since he was in office. So I think that we need to get to both large and small businesses that are in our community to make sure that we're growing smartly.
Thank you. And Ed, the next question goes to you. And our questioner asks, what are the positions or programs that you're willing to let go or reduce to keep taxes down? And alternatively, are there shifting priorities where you think the town needs to give more attention to? And first chance to Ed.
Well, first, let me just correct. I'm sorry that Mrs. Resnikoff didn't recognize when she came to my office with her son to complain about the solid waste issue that she had that we fixed for her. So she might not recall that. But I also meet with Mr. Olson, her brother, every month at the Mystic Co-op Task Force meeting. So I enjoy that and learning about that. Secondly, what I would give up, I wouldn't give up anything, to be quite honest with you. I have to say that now I need actually 4 staff. We're looking for 2 more department heads and also more staff. You just look over the budget, and my opponent talked about how the first selectman in the town government budget. If we look over the years that Glenn Frischman was actually the chair of the Board of Finance, Mr. Marinell had a town government budget that he's control of, 1.7%. Mr. Dibble had 3.2% over his term. Mr. Brown had 7.3% town budget increase, never went below 7% in the years he served in First Selectman, and mine is 0.00. I think that we need to retain what we have right now.
Mr. Kraus,
As far as giving anything up, I don't think we basically can and maintain the services and the gains we've made in improving the town infrastructure, the fields. Things that happen have to be maintained. If we start cutting things, the fields protocol, and this is a good example, the fields will go back to where we started, and we have to maintain these, so we have to keep our budgets lean, but we have to keep them firm to maintain what we've gained for a better Stonington.
thank you. And so Glee, the question of the things this taxpayer wants to know that you would be cutting or reducing or alternative need to spend more money on.
Actually, we're in a rebuilding period right now. We've got 2 director-level positions as of November 1st that will be vacant. One is the director of planning, and then the other is now going to be the director of public works. So we need to make sure that we get the right people on the management team to move the town forward. When Mr. Habrick refers to the budgets of the other first selectmen and shows higher percentages, those were different times. And you've got to look and see where we are right now, and we are tightening our pocketbooks, and we're all doing that. But there were schools that were built under Mr. Brown, and so we've got to figure out which numbers we're talking about, because numbers can lie, believe it or not. Because if we're not comparing apples to apples, we're not exactly talking about the same thing. So is he including in those numbers the bonding? Because in his 0.0 that he says, or he touts, we did restructure debt. We had 400,000 almost that we were able to do at one time on bonding.
That's a minute, or you can continue 30 seconds,
And then
Mr. Brown says.
another one at about 1.4 million in savings. And so that does all tie into structure. And it's like when you refinance your house, you get extra cash because you've refinanced the long-term debt. And so I think we've got to be very intentional as we look at the numbers to make sure we know where we're going. But I would agree, there's nothing we can cut right now. We've actually got to invest. And a stitch in time saves 9. You may have heard that, right? And we need to do that in some things.
Thank you. Ed, last word on this issue.
Well, I think numbers speak for themselves. Whether you're restructuring bonds, whether you're reorganizing departments or whatever, we've delivered more services over these past 6 years under a 0.00% budget. And my opponent already said that she wants to invest more. So I don't know which taxes you're going to raise or how many taxes you're going to raise, but I think that our numbers speak for themselves.
Thank you. Next question to Glee. David Collins wrote a column raising questions about your conservatism and that trying to find out your views on the abortion issue, on gay marriage, and you basically said, I'm running for first selectman. I don't see it as an issue. A few of our questioners want to know what your position are. They think they do want to know. Here's your chance.
My job would be first selectman. Again, I've treated this as a job interview. And my job as first selectman is whatever laws are on the books, it is my job to make sure that they're enforced equally and fairly for everyone in the community. And in relationship to what my beliefs are, yes, those I do carry with me, and I would bring them to the office. But you know, there were our forefathers that came over here, and the coin that we flipped earlier to find out who was going to go first or second said, "In God we trust." And we didn't do the pledge tonight, but if we did that, it would be one nation under God. And I love to have longer conversations, and I also told that to David Collins, but I said when it comes to social issues, those aren't things that should be in a soundbite and shouldn't be things that we use to separate us in a local community.
Mr. Brown, do you want to weigh in?
That was Glee's question, and that was Glee's answer.
Ed?
Yeah, I don't think she answered it, but I mean, it does matter what goes on. I mean, locally, the state of Connecticut, we have same-sex marriages. I mean, I have no problem. I've married a number of people at town hall, whether same-sex marriages, opposite-sex marriages. I don't know how Glee is going to decide whether she's going to partake in that or not. I've also, I can answer myself. I don't have to go back to my spouse to determine whether I'm pro-life or not pro-life. I mean, I'm pro-choice. And I think that my opponent was the one who raised class and level, what person, where you go to eat, where you go to have something to drink, and I think it doesn't matter at all. We're a community and we take care of each other, whether it's a dire situation or it's a situation of everyday issues. I have people that come in with a variety of issues that we try to help them survive and thrive in this community. It's a very, very tough time right now, and a choice is very, very important of how you make who's going to be the next leader.
Thank you. Mr. Kraus.
Our community is made up of a great mixing pot of people. Every one of them is basically very important to me, and basically I know important to Ed. We serve all the people here, not just the Christians, the Muslims, I mean, there's no distinction between if you're this person or that person. You come to town hall, you get treated equally and well.
And Glee, you have 30 seconds if you want to add anything.
Okay, so let me be specific. I will uphold every law in the state of Connecticut. And some of my very good friends are gay. And I'll tell you what, I saw him that night after David Collins had kind of grilled me, and I said, I kind of was caught off guard. I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. I'm sorry if you hear things that are inappropriate or misrepresent how I feel about you, and I'm sorry. And sometimes we all just have bad days. And at that point in time, that is what I said.
Thank you. Ed, next question is, and again, a little education on some of the Stonington issues. Where do you stand on filling the Director of Planning and Zoning Enforcement Officer position and restoring the Director of Human Services, which, according to our questioners, I guess have been vacant for some period of time? Ed.
Thank you. First, the Director of Planning position, I've been trying to fill that position. I wish my colleagues, wish my opponent's colleague, Glenn Frischman, would make a decision. I don't know how my opponent feels. I mean, she first wanted to do a study, then she said she wanted to fill it. So I don't know what side of the fence she's on right now. And I think it's important to fill that. I want to be able to, I've been pleading for the money to be able to do it. Either way, in January, we can still fill that position with a good quality person. Secondly, the Human Services position, I have a terrific Human Services manager. She's standing right over there, Leanne Theodore. We promoted her from the program director into the Human Services manager. She's actually doing both positions, and she does them tremendously. And I'm proud to, again, take an individual who's done well in the organization and move them up to a higher management position. So regarding those, I'm very, very proud of the next steps that we're taking.
Ed's been very involved in this, and I support what he's been doing. Ms. Theodore over there is doing an excellent job, and I know the planner that we find by the interview process and the choosing process we use in this town will be very, very good.
Glee, rebuttal.
Yes, I did my homework, and that is why I say we do need a planning director, and I may go as far as saying we need a planning of director and development, because I think we need to get development out of elected positions. They're only done at 2-year increments, and I think sometimes when you're working with people coming to our community, they're there for a much longer period of time. And so we absolutely need that. With Human Services, I'm not sure. I would have to get in, and I would have to do a little homework to make that decision. When we tout a lower interest rate on budgets.
That's your minute. I guess you can continue, 30 seconds.
Part of that is because some of us aren't doing as well. We've lost jobs. We're not in the best place in our lives, and if we look at the number of clients that Human Services is working with now, it's increased. And so I think in order to take care of the community that we live in, we may need to look at that and figure out specifically how we're going to take care of the folks in our area that aren't doing as well right now. Now, I talked about public-private partnerships before, and we might be able to do those with some of our outside agencies. But I think we need to sit down and have a very good conversations of what social services look like in Stonington.
Thank you. Ed, last word on filling these positions.
I think one of the things that's great is that doing this innovative approach with promoting one of the individuals from within, we saved money without having another individual that needed to be hired. So I don't know the way Glee talks now, I'm not sure how much increase she's going to add to the budget and increase the taxes, but I think we've done a tremendous job. We deliver tremendous services with a tremendous staff that we have right now, and I'm very proud of that and look forward to the next step.
Thank you. Next question to Glee. You've stated that among your major priorities is completion of the Plan of Conservation and Development, and you said you will be engaged in attending the meetings. I was wondering, the question is, why is this a priority for you, and do you feel the level of engagement is currently not enough from the First Selectman's office?
I do not think that it is enough from the First Selectman's office right now. We've been working on this for over a year, probably closer to a year and a half. We don't have a planning director. When we did this in 2004, we had a planning director, and we hired Planometrics to help us with the process. This is a huge thing that needs to be done for our community, and it covers land use all the way up till 2024 once it's in place. And by state statute, it's extremely important. It goes over the Plan of Conservation, land use, and development in land use. And the reason I would be engaged is because bringing in a new planning director, we need to bring them up to speed. But right now, our planning director is sitting to my right and has been for over a year, and hasn't attended many, if any, of the planning meetings, both for the Plan of Conservation and Development, as well as for planning and zoning. And so, yes, I absolutely think we can do better in that area and would be engaged and involved because our volunteers need to see the leadership.
Thank you. And Mr. Brown on this issue.
You want to continue, Glee? No. I think we need the leadership that Glee is referring to. We haven't had it for quite a while. You just can't spread yourself out so thin that the important areas that need to be filled are not filled. And being a former First Selectman, I know that these positions are critical to the operation of the town, and they must be filled.
Thank you. Ed, concerning the level of involvement in the Plan of Conservation and Development.
Yeah, just to correct my opponent, I have attended some meetings to there. I mean, I think that we have a very qualified, tremendously qualified POCD committee. I mean, we have the former Director of Planning of Stonington that sits on it now. We have an Inland Wetlands Commission member who was on it until she just recently quit. We have the town planner who's on it. We have a PZC commissioner that's on it. We have an EDC commissioner that's on it. We have a former member of the previous Plan of Conservation and Development member on there. So we have a tremendously qualified group. Also, I instituted that we added more money to get more help from Planometrics, who wrote our last plan. And we knew going into this that we didn't have a lot of money. The Board of Finance did not allocate a lot of money to us. So we were only going to be able this year to do an addendum to it. So it's not a full-blown plan. So I think it's important to know that the town planner has done a great job in coordinating this, and we look forward to the plan. And in speaking to the chairman last night,
All right.
it looks good.
That's the 1 minute. And Mr. Kraus?
When push came to shove, I was at meetings. The choice from the Board of Finance cutting the town of Stonington Selectmen's budget, the push was basically we had to save money. At the time, the position of the planner was put aside, and we found basically, as Glee has said, the planner is needed, and we've started to put the money back in. Hopefully by the next fiscal cycle, the planner will be back in, and we'll have that position filled.
And Glee, 30 seconds from your side on the issue of planning, the Plan of Conservation and Development.
As I look at the town charter, Chapter 5 talks about all of the responsibilities of the First Selectman. Number 1 is to run town hall, and number 2 is to be involved with all of our boards and commissions. And when you're the sitting planning director, I think leadership is what is needed. And we need to have our volunteers feel as though they're supported. The first selectman has more information going on in the town than anyone else, especially when they're involved as the director of planning.
Thank you. Okay, next question is for Ed. And we've gotten a few questions on Ethics Commission. I guess you have an Ethics Commission, but positions need to be filled on the Ethics Commission. Do you have plans to do so? Why or why not, Ed?
Well, first thing, I just want to also say, in a state statute, the first selectman gets to be a stockade fence sitter and get $1 a day. So if anybody has a stockade fence, I'd be glad to make some extra money. But so it's tough to take the whole charter literally in that way. But I do want to say that with respect to the Ethics Commission, we have an Ethics Commission. The Ethics Commission is basically instituted when there's an ethics complaint that's brought to the town attorney. The town attorney then, if the complaint is valid, it then goes to the Ethics Commission there. So, I mean, Mr. Brown could even talk a little bit more when there was a vote before on the Ethics Commission. I'm not sure how you voted on that time, but I know that there was concern about who was going to be on it and how it was going to do and whether it was going to be a political weapon to be used. So what's happening now, COG, the Council of Governments, is trying to look at a regional ethics commission so that we can take out all the politics from each of the individual towns. Right now, that's in the executive committee right now, and then it'll report back to COG within the next 2 months.
Mr. Kraus.
You want me to take it? So basically, to answer that, the Ethics Commission we have available, and basically the protocol is written in there whereby any type of ethics complaint goes to the town attorney.
Clearly on the Ethics Commission.
And the town attorney serves at the pleasure of the first selectman. And when the first selectman is also the department head of at least one department, and even though we have a manager of human services, he is the director of human services, because that also is a position that is in our charter that's supposed to be filled. And now with us having our director of public works, the first selectman's going to have 3 jobs with a bunch of people working for him. And I think it's very important to have a seated ethics commission before issues happen. Because I think if you seat it when there's a problem, that's when it becomes political.
30 seconds, Mr. Brown, if you want to continue the discussion.
No, I agree with Glee. The town attorney is no way to handle an ethics complaint. There has to be a better way of doing it. As she stated, the town attorney reports to the first selectman, and having been again the former first selectman, it's what the first selectman wants is what the first selectman gets.
Ed, 30 seconds.
I have to disagree with that. What the first selectman wants, he gets. That's not true. And unfortunately, the town attorney was fine when Mr. Brown was first selectman, and it's the same town attorney there. So I have to say that, unfortunately, by charter, it's de facto when someone's leaving. Mr. Spellman, who did a great job for 24 years for our town, was also the director of public works, director of planning, director of everything else. There's no illusion of some type of unethical activity going on just because a department head may have left to go to another town, or that department left unfortunately passed away on us. So I think that there's a protocol that's there. If there's any ethics complaint, there has not been an ethics complaint raised. So, I mean, I'm not going to start to put the cart before the horse.
Thank you. Next question goes to Glee, and I've done a lot of debates over the years. I've never got this question.
Should I be nervous?
No, no, and it's for it's for all the selectmen candidates, really, but it starts with Glee. This question would like to know how the candidates feel about changing the zoning regulations to allow the backyard chickens. And do they agree with the planning and zoning proposal to allow up to 10 hens on a half acre or more? Lee?
Well, I'll tell you, that was an interesting planning and zoning meeting. And, you know, that's the process with planning and zoning. And I'll give them a lot of credit, because Peg Moran brought that to planning and zoning, paid the dollar amount to try and get a change to the regs. And there were so many things that needed to be dealt with that after about 3 hours of talking about chickens, finding out who flies and whether you need covers for them and how far they should be set back, there are all kinds of things about chickens that you never knew. And they're only hens. You can't have any roosters, because then that's when problems happen. So what planning and zoning has done is now they've taken the application with Peg Moran and the others that are passionate about chickens, and are working together with them to get it to make sense. because there are people in our community that want chickens. So I guess we're just going to figure out with planning and zoning, and I don't believe Mr. Hadbrick was at that meeting that night, but we had some young ladies.
One minute, I don't know if you want to, Mr. Brown wants to add to the hen debate, or?
Sure. So we had, but
Let's give
when
him
we,
his time out.
when we were talking about the chickens that night, there were some kids that came out. There was more engagement on chickens than you would have seen. And what they've got to figure out is where it makes sense. And I think 6 hens is actually what it was down to. So anyhow, on Tuesday evenings, feel free to come to Mystic Middle School. All kinds of things can be talked about.
Do our incumbents have an opinion on the backyard chicken debate?
I've learned that our job is to appoint the Planning and Zoning Commission members, and they work themselves in trying to put together and come up with what the residents want for their issues. I again applaud Peg Moran standing up and working on this project. I have, over my time as first selectman, dealt with seaweed, trees, dogs, chickens, and nitrates and sewers, and I've learned a great deal from all these things. And no, I wasn't there that night. Actually, I finally got the chance to get to one of my daughter's events, so I appreciate that. But I think that the planning and zoning does a great job, and again, it's our job to appoint them, and we hope that they take into consideration what the residents feel. And ultimately, I also want to give kudos to Peg Moran and her garden that she did in Human Services, too.
Mr. Cross, anything to add?
Well, yeah. I wish I had chickens to take care of the ticks, get them off the dogs. Anyway, I think we better start a rooster support group, because pretty soon the roosters have to be taken care of, and I'm of the male gender here, so I'm getting nervous about chickens and roosters. Naturally, the planning and zoning has done, I think, a great job, and Mrs. Moran has put forth her case, and the planning and zoning has listened, and I think it's going to be a good
All
solution.
right, thank you. And last word on this topic, Glee.
And here's another how we're different. Yes, I was at that planning and zoning meeting, and I've been to a number of them for the 4 years that I've been on the Board of Selectmen. As first selectman, I take it very seriously that our job is to select people to the various boards and commissions. And I think you need to be at them, supporting them, encouraging them, and leading them as individuals so that they can do their jobs better. I also think that you need to be at them so you can see the different perspectives of the different commissioners that are seated. And our job is, once we select them, to get out of their way. But we could do a much better job of leading these folks and have meetings with the 27 chairmen and invest in them and build them up.
All right, thank you. Next question, Ed, is the questioner is, how do you feel about the current funding level for our EMS responders? And the questioner is looking at Griswold, where they have underfunded their ambulance service and is now for sale, and they're concerned about that happening here. So if you could kind of address those concerns about EMS services.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I think we, as the Board of Finance, underfunds the ambulances tremendously. Every year, I have put in fully funding them at their request of the $30,000 that they want, and they get butchered as they go to every single meeting. Actually, this year, I had a meeting with all the ambulances together and also with their billing agent, telling us about the paramedic situation and the bundle billing difficulties that they're dealing with right now. And it's a travesty, it really is. They are a critical element. They're volunteers, a majority of them. They work like crazy to be there. When anybody calls 911, they want them there. But they're also dealing with huge Medicaid issues, huge Medicare issues. The demographic numbers are staggering in our town. So I'm appalled by, my opponent's representative, who's chairman of the Board of Finance, and just basically butchers them and the other Republican members each year for this. And we're going to get to a point where if we have to pay for them, it's going to be expensive.
Thank you.
This is a point of contention with Ed and I every year, because we put in a budget that I'm in the, let's say, the AARP class, and basically I would want services to be enhanced and ready to go if basically something happened to basically anybody in the AARP. But also, I'm just going to throw in, the same thing happens to libraries. We put in a much higher community focus for the EMS people and the libraries, and constantly, when we attend the meetings, we're just trying to hang on to small increases, which is, my viewpoint, very poor
Thank you.
politics.
Thank you. Glee, this issue of whether Stonington is adequately funding its EMS services.
You know, he brings up the Board of Finance and says that the Republicans are the ones that are turning them down. But there are 6 members on the Board of Finance, so that's 3 and 3. And you need 4 to be a majority. And so they really, it is kind of collaborative with both the Democrats and the Republicans with what happens with outside agencies. We're unique in the fact that we have 3 different ambulances that work in the town. Some are nonprofit, some are profit, some are in Stonington, one is in Westerly. We've got, L&M and Westerly. And these are things that we've got to look at and figure out as we go forward. But again, we're talking about 0% increase, and we're touting that. And yet now we're talking about ambulances and libraries. And I think that when it comes to outside agencies, when we do budgeting in March, we need to give very specific parameters for all outside agencies with forms and information.
Thank you.
Can I? No.
Why don't-
Mr. Brown, and then, no, you're up next. And then you get last word.
When I was first elected, the last thing I was going to do was to chastise the Board of Finance, because quite often you have to go before them if you want to get something. They're not going to take it very well that they've been chastised here tonight. They have a very, very difficult job to do, and we all should applaud them for keeping the taxes, because they are the ones responsible for our taxes being low.
Last word from the incumbents.
Well, first, Mr. Brown chastised him when he was representing the Wesley Library at the meeting, looking for more money. But again, we do not have any for-profit ambulances. They're nonprofit. And when you go to the Board of Finance, and my budget was still flat with the increased money, because 2 years my budget was below 0%, we can fully fund them. They're an incredible medical importance that we need in our town here for our community. And we're getting to the point now where if you get less and less volunteers, you're not going to have your fire, you're not going to have EMS, and then we're going to have to go to paid. And if we go to paid, it's going to be very, very detrimental. All you got to do is ask New London how they deal with the situation. So it's very important that we support our volunteers in the town as they try to deliver services for our needs.
Thank you. Next question to Glee. I'd like to return, because we got several questions on economic development strategy. Mr. Habrick has taken a strategy where he's traveled trying to bring businesses into the community. You suggest you will have a different take. So if we could kind of discuss how maybe economic strategy would differ under your administration than is currently followed.
Well, if we look at both Zachary and L&M Diagnostics, both of those actually were in our greater regional community. And Zachary came because there was a building that fulfilled their needs when they needed to move from Groton. And so in 1996, I actually brought a business to Connecticut, to the regional area, and we needed about 40,000 square feet, and there wasn't anything in Stonington. And we needed to be in place within about 6 months, and so we placed ourselves in Groton. And we brought jobs, and that business is still going on, and it's very successful. And I think, and I know, there are a lot of people that live in our community, and some folks that are even retired in our community that have time, that if we get them engaged in the process to help us really look strategically at what our businesses look like, we would do better. And I also think that we've got to support the businesses that are here.
Just a minute. Mr. Brown?
Mr. Habrick said that he proactively goes to businesses 2 a month. I'd actually like to see that in a report. I think that those are great things for us to discuss and for us to have out there so that he could be saying, here are the 2 businesses I went to this month and this is what I learned. And when he says that Mrs. Resnikoff came to his office, that's different than him going to hers. And I think that that's kind of important when you're number 7 on the grand list with as many merchants that are there, that we would go to them
Time is up. Ed, your approach to economic development and how it's going.
First is, I told you I meet with Mr. Olson, her brother, who also runs there monthly. So, but let me just go into, yes, we do have two, L&M Diagnostics and Zachary both. I mean, it's very important the way the strategy is, because it's a combination, as I said, of economic gardening and also the combination of going out to try to recruit companies from coming in. Right now, the region is just losing between Pfizer, between the casinos downsizing. We need to bring smart growth back in. So it's very, very critical. Concerning Glee's business, I mean, I did not know about the Groton business. I know that, I think your corporation is headquartered at 52 High Ridge Road, and it's in Massachusetts as a foreign corporation, and it's in Rhode Island as a domestic corporation, but you haven't got a home occupancy permit, so you live in a residential area, so I don't know what's up with that. But if you do want to relocate in Groton, I mean,
30 more seconds
we
if you
have a
wanna
quick
continue.
business guide, so feel free.
30 more seconds if you want to continue, or Mr. Kraus.
Okay, and economic development in the region is very important, and thank you, Glee, for coming into the region, but for her workers to come to the town of Stonington, we have to have good infrastructure, good schools, good fields, actually a beautiful town. So to maintain this, Glee, we've got to basically keep things rolling as a progressive government, not as one just worried about our taxes. My point of view here is, if we're progressive, the town keeps getting better and better and better. People want to move here, and even Glee's regional manufacturing
Have to cut you off there to be fair.
Okay.
Thank you.
will be beneficial.
Last word, Glee, or Mr. Brown, on economic development strategy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, gotta leave that one alone.
I was going to take Ed's mic, but he knows more about my corporation than I do. And the
You're
reality
the owner
is,
of it, so I'm
well,
surprised.
but the reality is you take our business tax dollars, so I guess that's okay. We don't have a business located at 52 High Ridge Drive. We've got them at different locations, so I don't think that we're against the law on anything. I do have a peddler's license, though. I did acquire one of those not too long ago, along with a food service license, because creatively I was trying to get out to the community with messaging as I run for First Selectman, and realized, oh yeah, in order to do that, I'm actually needing to get some different licensing, and was able to work both at the police department as well as town hall as a consumer in the process of doing that.
All right, thank you. You've been a very good audience. I appreciate everyone behaving. I take this opportunity that this debate will be available on theday.com. If it was so good you want to watch it again, and you want to clarify the positions on the backyard hens, you can watch that, or tell your neighbors if they couldn't make it, they can watch it. Now we're going to move into our closing statements. Glee's going to go first, and they have 2 minutes to sum up.
As I said, I've looked at this as a job description and as an opportunity of applying for a job of the First Selectman of Stonington. And it's been a privilege, even the process has been a privilege, meeting with so many of you as we've gone door to door. As I would run town hall, it would be very similar to the way that I've run my campaign. In July, I announced that I wanted to be First Selectman. In August, we sat down and came up with a budget. We created what direction we wanted to go in and how it was going to look. And we did decide we wanted to be positive, and that was the direction that we wanted to go. We wanted to talk about our differences. We wanted to talk about our strengths. And that's why I talk about the hows and the whats, because I would manage collaboratively, both at town hall and with the boards and commissions. I would be inclusive. As I said earlier, the First Selectman has lots and lots of information, and you've got to make sure that that gets to the right people. And that's through leadership, and that's through mentoring. One of my greatest privileges in this process is looking at the mentoring aspect. Not only getting people on boards and commissions, but also just connecting folks with different things within the community. I had the opportunity of sitting down with a bunch of 23-year-olds that we were actually talking about government and what was going on. And with them, we were able to talk about, especially with one gal who had some interest in biology, and was trying to figure out some career opportunities and kind of had an interest in sustainability and was looking at, what could she do with that? And I said, we just have a whole new water treatment plant system that we've just started to put into place. Let me see if I can make some phone calls and get you hooked up with Jim Sisk. And that was able to happen. And to get people hooked up and excited about our community is what it's all about for me. And I want to make sure that we are engaging more and more people and that we're very intentional as we get folks to serve on our various boards and commissions, and that we bring them along.
Thank you very much. And Ed, your turn.
Great. Peter Drucker said that leadership is not about making speeches or by attributes, it's about results. And I'm very proud of the results that we've done. When I took office on my inauguration day on November 20th, I received 18 projects that were either unfinished, underfunded, or issues. Actually, Olivia, if you could stand up, she has the book right in front of her because the chairman of the Republican Party wouldn't allow us to bring any material up here. So she has the book. The actual information is on edhabrick.com on my website, so you can read the actual projects. We came out, and our Director of Administrative Services says, when I took over for Mr. Brown, we were at a breaking point. We needed to salvage these projects, and we had the potential of losing more grants of the town of Stonington. So putting together, we implemented streetscapes. We brought in an overpriced senior center to be underfunded, so that we save money. We put in a new town dock with electrical, also with finishing of the ice machine that needed to be done. And also we then, after cleaning up those projects, we started our own. And we were able to put in a new field, which is beautiful now. 63% of the roads are going to be improved. Also, we have a number of projects that we've done throughout everything from the prescription drug plan into putting together concerts in downtown Pawcatuck and a variety of other things. I'm so proud of what we've done, and we've delivered the results that we've wanted to do. And we want to continue to do that. We want to continue to make this affordable. And all of these were done with a 0.0% town budget increase to the town side. And by state statute, that's all we have ability of. The Board of Finance takes care of, the Board of Ed, they only have to be able to do the increase the bottom line or decrease the bottom line. So all we can do is do what we do for our side, and we've done a great job. Everybody working together, delivering more services for Stonington for less money, and I look forward to doing that again if you re-elect me.